Stark is on the white-black aggro deck that he had designed for the Invitational. This is always one of the fun parts about having a standard open following the Invitational. It's the white weenie deck with black. But he's playing against Matt Kling, who's playing a Rakdos aggro deck. And when we say Rakdos, I don't mean like big, big swamp, small R. It's a, 4 Spike Jesters, 4 Exavas. It is straight in playing both colors.
Yeah, and it's obviously people are familiar with white-black aggro. That's sort of a deck that's been increasing in popularity lately. But Rakdos aggro, not a deck that you see too very often.
Yeah, I think there was right when Mono Black won its first Grand Prix in Louisville when Brian Bronduin defeated John Stern in the finals. There were some people were searching for decks that were good against Mono Black, and I feel like both the White Weenie aggro deck was something that came out to be pretty good against Black, and then we also have this, which is this Mogus Marauder style aggro decks. These are pretty much the low end aggro decks of the format. Mogus Marauder aggro really hasn't seen too much play since a couple weeks after that. But as you see, Matt Kling's 6-1 currently in the Open with it.
Yeah, and he also plays 4 copies of Exava Rakdos Blood Witch, a card that I think a lot of people, when it first was spoiled, were kind of excited about it because the potential to give all other creatures haste is very exciting, but really hasn't made its mark on Constructed just yet.
Yeah, well, just even as a 4/4 first strike haste, Exava is a pretty powerful card. I think the challenge is finding what deck you'd want to play Exava in.
Yeah, and one thing that Matthew's going to have trouble with is Soldier of the Pantheon, which Ben does have on turn 1. Matt has a number of gold cards or multicolored cards in his deck, so Soldier of the Pantheon is going to do a lot of heavy lifting in this matchup.
And Ben, because he's on the play, definitely taking on the aggro role. He follows up his Soldier of the Pantheon with a Daring Skyjack. Matt just has a Blood Crypt, so he will not make a play on the board until turn 2. Already facing down 5 power from Ben. He'll play a Thrill Kill Assassin and opt not to unleash it.
Yeah, so Thrill Kill Assassin, one of those cards that can block and deal with Soldier of the Pantheon, but there is a Zathid Necromancer, so Stark is okay with bringing in his creatures and just trading for a zombie.
Yeah, so right now Matt's really on the back foot. I think, both decks really concur with about the same speed. Ben looks like he kept both a faster hand and was on the play, and really, right now is pretty far ahead. He has 6 power on the board to 0 for Matt.
Yeah, and the problem is that while both players are aggressive, Matt does have some removal spells in Lightning Bolt and Doomblade, but Ben's creature quality is just so much higher. I mean, he has the Soldier of the Pantheon. He also has cards like Banisher Priest and Imposing Sovereign. He also has Renounce the Guilds, another way for him to remove an Orzhov Charm. So he has ways to interact with Matt's creatures as well, but his creature quality is just a little higher, I think, because White generally has better creatures than Rakdos.
Yeah, absolutely. We see a Rakdos Cackler from Matt, and he's debating whether or not to unleash it. Unfortunately, there's no way it can actually make it trade if he doesn't unleash it. It is gold, so he's going to go ahead and make it a 2/2.
Yeah, and the good thing for Ben, too, is because he's mostly white, just splashing black, he still can play Mutavault, an option that Matt doesn't have available to him. So it looks like Matt's just going to unleash his Rakdos Cackler and put a Madcap skills on it. Try to be an aggressor in this matchup, but it's going to be very difficult when he's already at 12.
Yeah, and we see a swing for 8 there by Ben. Turns the Mutavault sideways, plays Daring Skyjack. Really has overwhelmed this board. You see Matt did put Madcap skills on the Rakdos Cackler, but he has no way to block. Ben has 5 attackers. Matt's down to 8.
Yeah.
It could be a pretty quick affair.
Yeah, it's unlikely Matt's going to be able to mount him in offense here. So, yeah, he just concedes this game, and we're off to game 2 now with Ben Stark winning the first game with a very aggressive draw.
All right, so I want to go ahead and compare these decks just because I think they're so similar in function. So you said, let's look at White has Soldier of the Pantheon, Black has Tormented Hero. White has Daring Skyjack, Black has Spike Jester. And you kind of go down, they're both playing Zathid Necromancers. White gets Banisher Priest, Black gets Mogus's Marauder. How do you feel that then these stack up against each other? What if they're have so many cards that are so similar? What breaks the mirror?
The thing is, I think both decks sort of do what they want to do in terms of being good against control. You're an aggressive deck. You're kind of all in. I don't think one deck has a particularly better matchup against control than the other. I mean, you both have a bunch of 1-drops. You both have creatures that can are kind of resilient in Zathid Necromancer, and you both have a little reach. But I think White just has a little bit of an advantage against other creature decks because you have cards like Spear of the Heliod, which is very good at like basically breaking through creature stalemates. You also have like the white creatures like Soldier of the Pantheon is very good not only in this particular matchup, but it's good against other matchups like Selesnya aggro or Naya, which are decks out there. So I think I'd give the edge a little bit to Ben's side just because white in general I think just has a little bit better creature quality.
Yeah, so saying things like when you compare Tormented Hero with Soldier of the Pantheon, Soldier of the Pantheon just gets to be a little more powerful here.
Yeah, and the thing is, Ben does have Tormented Hero Zone, so Ben actually has more one-drops than Matthew. Matthew, I believe, only has 8 one-drops in his deck, so he's not even guaranteed to go turn one-drop creature, so Ben can just jump ahead of him, even if he's on the draw. And I think that the thing that Matt gains, though, is he has a little more reach than the white decks. He has Burn, he has Lightning Bolt, and after board, if he wants, he can bring in more burn spells. He has access to cards like Skullcrack if he wants to. I don't think he has that card in his sideboard, but it is an option available to you.
Yeah, so I want to go over then, if you think that Matt is the slower deck here, which I'm inclined to agree with you, we'd then look at the things that are in his sideboard that are a little bit bigger. He can play Trickery, which I have to imagine he's going to play against Ben. This is the matchup where it's for. But I'm more interested about cards like Whip of Erebos, which he has a 2 of in his sideboard. You know, does he fully embrace the control role here and play cards like Whip?
I actually think Whip of Erebos is probably okay in this matchup just because if all your creatures can be bouncing off each other, then you might as well just gain a little life out there. Plus, you do have a card like Exava Rakdos Switch. Exava is actually kind of difficult for Ben's deck to deal with. Ben does have 2 copies of Renounce the Guild. He has 4 Alls of Charm. But if you can kind of bring that back with Erebos and keep gaining life that way, I think Whip could be okay. The other card that you would consider is maybe the 2 copies of Dreadboard that are in Matt's sideboard. Obviously, removal is always useful, especially if you know Ben's going to be playing Banisher Priest.
Well, so basically, if you're boarding in things like Dreadboard, what you're saying if you're Matt's deck is rather than trying to race and become the faster deck, you're just going to embrace the fact that, hey, you're not the faster deck, but if you have more removal or better removal, then you can use your larger cards like Exava to maybe, or Whip to carry a game.
I don't know if Matt's necessarily the slower deck. I mean, obviously he doesn't have as many one drops as Ben, and I don't think he wants to turn into a control deck because he simply just doesn't have the kind of cards that can become that make him a control deck. But he does have cards like he has a lot more removal that he can bring in after board, and he does have 4 copies of Madcap Skills, which just isn't good in this matchup. So I think he could easily just take out those Madcap Skills and just bring in more removal, and then still not give up too much aggression. He could still go 1-drop, 2-drop Marauder, and then just use those removal spells to sort of make sure he wins the race.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at this, and I think what I like more about the white deck in this matchup is that, both the creature decks are pretty good at attacking, but when you look at the creatures in terms of how well they block is where I feel like Ben has a pretty decent advantage. Soldier of the Pantheon, for example, can hold off a card like Exava. When you look at Matt's deck cards, we're talking cards like Thrillkill Assassin, Rakdos Cackler, things that they're pretty poor blockers, and on top of that, Ben then plays cards like Azorius Arrestor and Imposing Sovereign. It seems like Ben's able to control the speed of the race a lot more.
Yeah, in order for his creatures to kind of match up in size, Matt does have to unleash a lot of them, which means that they can't actually block. Imposing Sovereign obviously has a huge impact in turning off all the haste creatures that are in Matt's deck. And then, like you said, Azorius Arrestor is a great way to kind of regain that tempo. So looks like Matt is going to mulligan his first hand. He's going to have to start with at least 6 cards again. Ben Stark debating whether or not he wants to keep his. Not sure. Looks like it's a tough one here.
Yeah, all right. We'll see what he keeps. I'm looking at Ben's deck. There are some cards in it, which I want to talk about one card in the sideboard, and I don't think it's for this matchup, but he has 2 Holy Mantle in the sideboard. That's a card I haven't seen for quite a while.
Yeah, Holy Mantle, interesting sideboard card there for Ben.
So that's we might get that one. That's a 2 and 2 white for an aura that gives a creature +2/+2 and protection from creatures.
Yeah, so that is a way to, I guess, bust through creature stalemates. It's a way that you can maybe attack through. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm wondering if there's a
what
matchup
in particular.
I'm wondering if there's a matchup where they just can't deal with a creature with a Holy Mantle on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of decks that have a tough time with that, but I'm not sure if there's really obviously in the mirror, sometimes there's a way where, okay, if you put that on a creature, they can't banish or priest it, but still, there's still Orzhov Charm.
It's like Colossal Gruul, I don't think could answer a Holy Mantle.
Well, they have Domri.
But the creatures,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
so that's
they do.
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it still wouldn't work.
So
Maybe that's what's
maybe just for
for.
Colossal Gruul, because some of their removal is, yeah, like you said, it's Domri, Flesh Blood.
Yeah,
So
Domri, Flesh Blood, Pelucranos. It's all. Toy
yeah,
Mantle does get around all of it. It's just I thought a pretty interesting card, something I haven't seen in any constructed lists
yeah.
to this point.
So the rest of Ben's sideboard, he's got 3 copies of Doomblade, 2 Dark Betrayal, 1 Spear of Heliod, like you said, 2 Holy Mantle, 1 Zathrid Necromancer, 2 Sin Collectors, 2 Renounced to Guilds, and 2 Profit Loss. Profit Loss, a card that's actually really good in the mirror. I'm not sure he wants to bring it in this matchup, though. There are some 1 toughness creatures in Matt's deck, but
Yeah, there are tormented heroes, but
he's got Tormented Hero and he's got Speed Freak. I'm not sure if Ben knows too much about this deck if he's fearing. He's also got I think he's got Spike Jester too. So you might get some value out of Profit Loss, but Profit Loss, maybe he thinks Profit Loss might be a little bit better than Renounced to Guilds, but he hasn't seen Exava. So the question is, does he know that he needs it for Exava or not?
right, all he really saw were Rakdos creatures out of Matt that game. So he's still guessing a little bit as to what the exact composition of the deck he's playing against.
Yeah, it's possible he might want to board out Tormented Hero on the draw in this particular matchup. That'll give him room to bring in some cards like Dark Betrayal, which is obviously pretty effective against this deck, along with maybe 2 more copies of Renounced to Guilds.
All right, we are underway on a 6. It looks like both players on 6 here.
And Ben leads with a Temple of Silence, another card that I think helps give his deck the edge, just because being able to scry is so effective in a deck like aggro, because you don't want to have a lot of lands.
Yeah, Matt's going to make Spike Jester. Spike Jester, I think, is one of the most exciting reasons to actually play the red-black aggro deck. 3-1 haste, he knocks Ben down to 17.
Yeah, but there's that Soldier of Pantheon again, and that's going to have a huge impact because, like we said, protection from multicolored and gain a life whenever a multicolored spell is cast is huge in this matchup because Matt's deck is mostly multicolored spells.
Right, when we go through looking at the multicolored cards, he has Rakdos Cackler, Rakdos Shred Freak, Spike Jester, and Exava, Rakdos Blood Witch.
Oh, so Marauder, there is a way that you can attack through the Soldier of Pantheon now. Gives it Intimidate or Devotion Black. So both the creatures are going to gain Haste and Intimidate and attack through, dropping Ben to 12 now.
Yeah, Mogus' Marauder is one of the scarier cards from this deck for sure.
Yeah, because it gives all your creatures Intimidate, which is basically a Falter-like effect in this matchup. For the most part. There is a Tormented Hero out there, but...
All right, so it's 20-12 right now. Matt, pretty far ahead. Ben does miss his 3rd land drop. He plays Boros Elite, so now has a pretty good army of his own, but he is certainly on the back foot at this point.
Yeah, Matt needs a... Matt would like, I guess, a Shock would be pretty good here. Just a way to... Some sort of way to deal with that, either a Doomblade or a Shock-like effect to deal with that. Electricity would also be huge.
Electricity would be excellent here. He needs to deal with that Soldier of the Pantheon, though.
So Necromancer is going to come down here and give him a little bit more of an army.
Yeah, it just seems that the creatures really do match up nicely for Ben. For example, Ben has a pretty good defense setup here with Soldier of the Pantheon. He's actually able to block the attackers. And then when you look at this going the other way, Zathrid Necromancer actually isn't that scary for Ben's deck.
Yeah, and now we see a Dark Betrayal take out the Magus Marauder in response to the Necromancer come down. So Matt unable to attack this turn. And Ben does draw a 3rd land. Looks like he has an Orzhov Charm as well, along with a Necromancer of his own. And like you said, Necromancer is a lot more imposing on Ben's side of the board.
Well, so Ben plays a Necromancer, and he has 4 humans in play, whereas when Matt played the Necromancer, the only human he had was Mogus' Marauder. So we're going to see a Tormented Hero attack. Ben's being pretty conservative on this board.
Yeah, he's fine with... He doesn't really want to... Boros Elite is only going to get... +1, +2, +2 if it attacks with 3 other creatures. He doesn't want to send his whole army in because he is at 12, so he's not really winning that race. So he's going to be a little conservative here and just attack for 2.
Yeah, a 5th land drawn by Matt Kling. He has 3 cards in hand. We know one of them was the land he drew. He currently is unable to punch any damage through. He has Ben down to 12, but the question will be whether or not he can seal those last 12 points. It's going to probably need to be something like a Mogus' Marauder or an Electricity to make this happen.
Yeah, and Soldier of the Pantheon doing some pretty good work, but now Necromancer is doing a lot of work now. So you just see that the quality of Ben's cards are just a little higher here.
Yeah, so Blood Crypt into play tapped for Matt, and actually no play. He's going to pass back to Ben, and I think the aggression really has come full circle now. Ben has taken over the attacking role.
Yeah, Matt getting a little land flooded here, not really able to add anything to the board or deal with any of Ben's creatures right here. Ben does have, look like, a 4th land, and he still has that Orzhov Charm in his hand. And it looks like he has an Azorius Arrestor as well, so really good draw there for Ben. He's going to be able to attack for 6. It looks like 7 now. And Matt, does he want to block? That's the thing.
Yeah,
He doesn't
so
really have a profitable block here.
right, so now Ben getting aggressive, no longer leaving the Soldier of the Pantheon back for blocks. We have Soldier of the Pantheon, Tormented Hero, Boros Elite, all attacking. The only thing that can block is Spike Jester. We're going to see, it looks like a Lightning Strike first on Zathrid Necromancer. So I'm thinking he's planning to trade with one of these humans.
So now the question is, does Ben want to use an Orzhov Charm before the blockers to make sure his creatures survive? But not sure if he needs to. I think he's okay with trading right here because he'll get rid of one of Matt's creatures, and he still has much more of a board presence here. So
Yep, so we see that the Zathrid Necromancer turning into a 2/2 zombie, but we still have an attack of 7. And Matt Kling looks like he's just going to take it. That'll put him down to 11 life, and putting Ben in the lead.
So yeah, Matt does take it. It's interesting that he would Searing Spear there or Lightning Strike there, because if you're not going to block, you'd think
if he's going to Lightning Strike, why do it now if he wasn't planning to block?
Yeah, exactly. You're just giving away information. So Matt now looks like he might have drawn a Rakdos Cackler possibly. Yeah,
Yep.
Rakdos Cackler, not huge here. He's going to have to not unleash it so he can block, and Ben gains a life because of the Soldier of the Pantheon.
All right, so Ben up to 13. The Rakdos Cackler hanging back, looking like it's going to try to trade with the Tormented Hero.
So Ben has five creatures he can attack with. He might want to leave back the Soldier of the Pantheon, but Ben in a pretty dominating position right here.
He's going to do just that. So we have Azorius Arrestor, Tormented Hero, both 2/1 swinging, followed by a 2/2 zombie, and now a 3/3 Boros Elite, and Matt's willing to trade off creatures. We see Spike Jester trading for the Boros Elite, Rakdos Cackler trading for the Azorius Arrestor, Zathrid Necromancer trading for the Tormented Hero. Matt's going to go to 9, and we'll be left with 3 creatures on Ben's side and just 1 zombie on Matt's.
Yeah, and one cool thing that Ben can do is he could use Orzhov Charm to bring back that Boros Elite, and at the end of Matt's turn, and then he'll have
the little used ability of Orzhov Charm.
So that he can kind of rebuild his army. He doesn't necessarily have to use it as a removal spell if he doesn't want to.
All right, so now we see a tap before this may be the 4-drop, and it is. This can be Exava, Rakdos, Blood Witch.
Ben does not miss the trigger and does gain a life off Soldier of the Pantheon.
So Exava is 3/3 with haste. If you unleash her, she's a 4/4 first strike, but now every creature with a 1/1 counter on it in Matt's deck will have haste.
So let's see, is he going to use it as a removal spell? Yes, Exava is slightly bigger than the rest of the deck, so he will use it as a removal spell, and now everything is coming in again. Battalion triggers, so Boros Elite is a 3/3, so the zombies can just trade, and Matt will take 5, and wow, Ben does have another creature, Elite. So he can still activate Battalion next turn for both his Boros Elites now.
All right,
Electrickery off the top.
I was thinking Matt's going to need an Electrickery. Ooh, he found a Madcap skills. For a second, I thought he'd found it, but it will not work. Ben Stark wins 2 games to 0. White-Black Aggro moves up to 7-1.